To know who we are, and where we're going, we must know how we arrived here. Welcome to Prophetic, a revolutionary study of the Great Pyramid, which promises to rewrite civilization's history.
Of course, junior high kids are all like, oh, they called me Blade or Silver. And I'm like, I don't know. They called me Chip for a couple days in the second grade. And then, boom.
Chip, that's it.
It's stuck right there.
Yeah.
So
we are alive, by the way. Okay, awesome. So you chipped your tooth, and you get this nickname Chip.
Yeah.
And so you go by Chip.
Yeah, I've just had it since basically the sixth grade is when it stuck.
Nice.
So.
Welcome, viewer, Chip Stugar, our guest on the Prophetic podcast. We're going to have some coffee here at Picasso's.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. I feel like I've been talking for a while already. Like how have you been? You know, what's going on with your book and your progress? You know,
almost there.
You've been to the gym lately. Cause I know that's how you and I first became pals.
Right.
Hanging out at the gym. You're working through any injuries?
I'm always injured. I'm always suffering. I just turned 54. The book's almost done.
Okay.
Pretty chill.
Yeah.
Did I tell you like I was wandering around for 10 months? Like I went to Upper Michigan.
Like recently?
Yeah, in the last year.
Okay, no.
I did some nomadic time.
I feel like I would have checked in with you at some point.
Yeah, nomadic time's different from being homeless.
Yeah, okay.
You still have
it's different on your taxes, different filing form.
Exactly. Yeah. But you still have some relationships or people let you come do laundry, hang out a little bit. So anyway, no, I spent last summer in Upper Michigan, and then I did some work, a couple Ferraris I did with my brother, and then I spent January in Malibu doing a job on a leather work and stuff in a beach house.
Nice. Okay.
Which was cool.
Yeah.
So you're a pilot.
Yes.
You chipped your tooth in like what grade?
Second grade.
Second grade.
Yeah, that's all that's interesting about me. I'm a pilot and I chipped my tooth. That's all I got.
Now, had you listened to some other episodes, you would have known. Have you ever dated a girl named Elizabeth? No.
Oh my gosh.
No, recently in the last several years.
Yes.
Okay, but not my friend Elizabeth.
Is she a pilot?
No.
Oh, okay.
She's psychologist, clinical.
Okay.
Anyway, her episode, she went through a pilot phase.
Okay.
Where it was like one pilot after another.
Okay, because I do have an ex named Elizabeth. So
okay. I don't think it's the same girl. But if it is, we'll follow up on that.
For sure. I think we're safe.
I think we're safe too. So, okay, cool, man. So you were giving blood today?
Yeah, I gave blood. I'm O positive, so they like to give me blood, or they like to take my blood a lot.
They like to give me blood. I'm an O positive vampire.
Yeah. I get thirsty now and then. I got to go check in. So since my new job that I got, I'm going to be traveling overseas quite a bit and literally everywhere. China, Europe. South America, all those places. I figure it's going to be harder for me to give blood because, when you fill out the form, you got to say, hey, have you been, overseas in the last 30 days or something? And so I'm sure a lot of it's going to knock me out for the foreseeable future. So I thought, okay, cool. Let me
do it now.
Let me donate real quick because for the foreseeable future, I'm going to be ineligible. So might as well just get that knocked out.
What's the new job?
So the new job is with a cargo company called Atlas Air. So they fly, we fly really basically big jets. So we're really a charter company but we primarily fly cargo.
Right.
So essentially you could charter us to fly you down to Disney World for the weekend, but it'd be pretty impractical to charter a 777. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So it'd be pretty impractical to do that. But mostly we fly a lot of cargo.
Yeah.
So I'm on the 777, which is the world's largest twin turbojet aircraft in the world.
Okay.
And one of my
do we need a notepad for this?
No. That's just a
777.
Tell
me again. Largest what?
It's the largest twin jet in the world.
Twin jet. Okay.
So airplanes with two jets. That's the biggest one of them. So as opposed to something like an iconic 747, which has the classic 4 engines. That's Air Force One.
Right.
It's got the iconic hump on the top of it.
Right. But that's a 4.
Yeah, that's 4 engines. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need all those extra engines. We just need 2.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So maybe let me speak for the audience.
Sure.
It's to me the flight culture or the air what do you guys call yourselves as a culture? Like the aircraft culture,
aviation, the airlines,
aviation culture. Aviation culture seems really inaccessible to the average person.
Yeah,
unless I get into a plane.
Yeah.
Or we sit and watch planes.
Yeah.
Or like Matt here takes pictures of antique planes.
Absolutely.
But otherwise, it's really not accessible, and it doesn't come up that much. So I feel totally ignorant
for sure.
about most aviation topics.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong, because there is a really high bar to get into aviation. I talk about this with my friends all the time of, aviation is just like any other trade or craft. You know? Okay, you basically have to go to trade school to get your certificates, and after a while, you can fly an airplane, and eventually you'll build enough hours and enough experience to where the next person will hire you
a bigger plane.
To hire you to fly the bigger jet and the bigger jet, and go on from there.
Right.
But the barrier to entry is still there in the beginning, where it's going to cost you if you started off now. To the point to where you can get paid to fly an airplane is going to be $50,000 at least, and probably a year to 2 years of your life.
Right.
So you're talking $50,000 cash, and a lot of banks or lending institutions will not help you out with that.
Right.
And even then, at that point, you're not making a lot of money anyway. My first year as a flight instructor, I made $29,000 on my tax return.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's better than paying somebody to fly.
So that barrier to entry is huge, and that prevents a lot of people. I'm really fortunate. I had a lot of things going in my favor at the right time.
It made it available.
Yeah, things that I was able to make work. I mean, you still got to capitalize on those opportunities. There's a huge barrier to entry that prevents people from getting into it in the first place. So...
Okay, and most of what we see, like I got a buddy Chad and other people, Eric Johnson, it's just like the weekend warrior aviation people.
Sure.
So much like other trades or let's say even a hobby thing, or the car guys are similar.
There's definitely hobbyists in the industry for sure. And so around the St. Louis area, there's that airport called Creveport Airport, which is over in Maryland Heights. Super easy to get to. You can see it from the highway. And that's really where a lot of that, there's more of those hobbyists that go in and out of there. There's hobbyists out of any airport around here, but that's kind of that's what we call GA, or general aviation.
Okay.
So that's the
GA. Wait. Not GA. 777.
Exactly. Right.
Twin engine, largest twin engine. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it simple for you, so don't worry.
That's fine.
Because one of the things as a flight instructor is you have to be able to explain these complicated concepts and condense it down in a way. So I'll definitely do my best to
general aviation,
keep down for you. Yeah. So
welcome to flight school, by the way.
Yeah,
this is your introductory course.
I'll sign you off for your private pilot certificate after this. podcast.
I want my certificate.
So Creveport is a really great airport for that. So that's if you just want to be weekend warrior pilot, get your private pilot license. That'll run you about $10,000.
Yeah.
Still, so it's still an expensive hobby, and
you still don't even. You're not even releasing a plane.
Yeah, I mean, that's still, for a lot of people, that's still a dream come true. I had so many.
To get certified.
I had so many students that were just looking to make it a hobby. Hey, I've always dreamed of becoming a pilot. I have a job in this other field where I make really good money, and I've always wanted to do this. Let's learn to fly. Okay, cool, great.
Right.
And so it's still accessible to people, but you're going to be more of a weekend warrior, and you don't dissuade those people at all. They're great, and we need them out there, and God love them.
What's the failure rate? How many of everybody that starts?
Man,
how many people throw in the towel?
I have no idea. I could never tell you that much. I do know that there's a lot of people that maybe start off and don't finish just because they realize they don't have the money for it, or it's gonna be harder than they thought it would. It's not easy.
Right.
There's a lot of studying involved. So maybe some folks started off and they realize, this just isn't for me. This is taking a lot more work than I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
So they kind of taper off, and I get that. So.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say flight instruction. Who sits in the captain's chair? You?
Yeah. So if you're getting your Cessna certificate and a little private pilot certificate and a little Cessna, little single engine thing, there's going to be 2 seats up front, and it's going to have dual controls.
Okay.
So there's going to be a yoke on each side with a rudder pedal. I can do everything you can do from. So you'll be sitting in the captain chair in the left seat.
But it really does. Okay.
And I'll be sitting in the right seat.
Okay.
So that's part of our training as flight instructors, is to be able to fly the airplane from the right seat. Because I got to look over the other side and see the instruments, because they're all still in front of you.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So I got to be able to look over and be like, okay, what's he doing, and still fly the airplane, because you're still in charge of the airplane.
Is this like turning out the light on your partner's side of the bed, essentially, without waking them up?
I guess so. Yeah, that's what you're thinking about. Sure.
I just tried to come up with an example.
Or think about it just like a car. Like if you got a teenager learning to drive.
The brake.
Yeah. You have brakes and a steering wheel on your side of the car as well. So it's the same kind of thing.
That would be helpful.
But your speedometer and everything is still on their side of the car.
I just taught he's 17 now, but with a year ago, a lot of people put in time teaching my son how to drive. It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so simple, entry level, hobbyist.
Yeah.
General aviation,
sure.
Flight. And how did you get interested in flying at all?
Man.
Back as a kid? Wow. How did this thing start?
I guess my interest in aviation and airplane just started from my dad, honestly, because my dad's a Boeing engineer.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I always knew what airplanes were. I grew up with airplane toys because I'm a little kid. My dad's a Boeing engineer, so he's always coming back from the Boeing store like, hey, look at this little foam thing I got. I'll throw it around outside. Right. So, and then I just had some aviation jobs over the years. I was working airport operations for a while.
Okay.
For Southwest for a few years until I decided.
Is that a glorified word for baggage claim?
No.
Just kidding. What did you say? What did you call it?
Airport operations.
Airport operations.
Yeah. So
is that like?
Yeah. So
that's not on the tarmac.
Yeah. It is a glorified term for gate agent. Glorified term. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a glorified gate agent. Is what it was.
I'm just for the viewer.
Yeah.
We want to give them.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. So at the airport for I did all. I was customer facing at the airport. So
fine,
you take the boarding passes, you tell people where their flights are, that kind of thing, and I actually really like that.
Explain to them why their flight's canceled.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, the pilot didn't feel like showing up to work today, so flight's canceled. So
you can start walking now if you want.
Yeah. Seattle's only a 23-hour drive. If you start now, you can make it by the time your event's over with.
So, Dad's Boeing engineer. Mm-hmm. Was he based in St. Louis?
Yeah.
Okay.
He worked for McDonnell Douglas.
Is he still around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, he retired a few years ago, right before all the drama started with Boeing. So
this is why all the parts started falling off.
Yeah, my dad left the company. Exactly. Right. Quality control went way down after he left.
Yeah. Did you watch the document? Of course you did. Yeah. The documentary.
Yeah.
But what impressed? Forget about what changes or lapses have happened. Mm-hmm. Okay,
sure.
I mean that's debatable, right? But the QC culture from the beginning, that seems impressive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really know how to answer that. Yeah, just because I still think there's going to be honest people on the ground that when they see something, any mechanic I've worked with over the years, if they see something sketchy, they're going to tell you, hey,
this is the deal.
This isn't right.
Yeah.
I've known so many mechanics that say, oh, don't take your airplane to that shop. That's a shady shop. Those mechanics aren't good. But those are still human beings at the end of the day, and they still have a moral compass. Most of them do. Anyway, 99% of them do. So if they see something out of place, they're going to say something.
Yeah.
They
don't want to put their mother in that plane.
Yeah, and
or themselves or their kids or whatever.
Yeah, I guess in general, what I would say is just we still have a pretty outstanding safety record in general in aviation.
Sure. Of course.
I mean, how many people since the Colgan Air crash in 2008 have actually died? No one. We had one fatality a couple of years ago when the Southwest engine blew up over Philly. That was tragic. But
ground impact?
No, the engine itself.
No, I know, but who died? Somebody on the plane?
It was a passenger on the plane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she died. She was sitting right next to the engine inside, I don't. So she died as a result of that. So I mean, aviation's got a crazy safety record. So when people come to me and they say they're scared to fly a turbulence or thunderstorms, I'm like, guys, there's a great safety record, at least for U.S. carriers. I know overseas there's a little bit different regulation, that kind of thing, but I always try to just put people at ease. Like, hey, there's a great safety record going on here.
That whole pitch thing.
Yeah, but those were still overseas carriers.
I know, but I'm saying that's
None
an
of those
anomaly. There's several of them together. That's.
Yeah, but again, those I think
different maintenance requirements.
I think with that whole angle of attack indicator issue, those were all again, those were overseas carriers, and so I would say that definitely for the U.S. carriers, our training is better, and they had the appropriate package that was able to deal with those issues when they came up.
Okay. So, all right.
Yeah, so I have full faith and confidence in U.S. airlines to be able to in our training to deal with that.
Sure.
I will say, like, I was in training with a few folks from Australia, and that was something that they said is that when you fly overseas, is that U.S. pilots overseas are known as the best stick and rudder pilots in the world.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something that we emphasize here in the States. It's like, hey, stick and rudder skills. When something goes wrong with the airplane, can you handle it? Can you keep it straight and level? Can you keep it safe?
Right.
So that's something that we really excel at.
My buddy just had a total navionics failure coming out of not Fort Myers, but somewhere down by Marco Island on takeoff, and it was an incident, and the whole thing was fried, and he landed safely. But it's like, how many things can go wrong?
Yeah.
Like 1,000?
Yeah.
And there's pretty much some protocol for, right?
So
a decision tree.
So that's kind of like something that starts off, and by the way, I did mention my company's name earlier, so I will say that my opinions don't reflect that of my employer.
Sure,
I should probably throw that out there, of course.
Well, our one viewer, I don't think we're at risk of virality.
You're gonna have 1,000 after this, Dave. No worry. We're gonna go viral
at some point. Yeah.
From day one of flight training, you're taught emergency procedures.
Right.
So if something goes wrong in the airplane, okay, what do you do? Something goes wrong, day one, if not first thing on day two.
I'm sorry. Hide the vodka bottles. That's like no. Is that not first thing?
Well, with that, I'll say aviation's like, I feel like every industry has a connotation with guys being drunk, but with aviation, guys like to have a drink, but we don't do that anywhere near the cockpit because this industry is so lucrative. No one wants to play around with losing their certificate.
Yeah.
We're gonna make jokes now and then, but oh my gosh, that's I'm not gonna have a drink anywhere near when it's time to go fly. I'm not gonna put my certificate in danger.
Right.
Sorry, anywhere near.
I interrupted you.
Oh no, you're fine. But back to the emergency thing. You're taught how to deal with emergencies basically from day one. So if something goes wrong, how do you deal with it? And the biggest thing is keeping a good head on your shoulders. You can't freak out. You can't lose your mind. And that's part of the flight training, Maybe that's the reason why people don't finish, because they just don't have that aptitude. I can teach a monkey to fly an airplane, like at the end of the day, it's just stick and rudder skills, and there's the runway to land it. But also, if you don't have those that mental fortitude to be able to deal with an emergency or stressful situation,
right?
Even on just maybe it's not even a bad weather day, maybe
routine emergency.
Routine. Maybe the winds are a little bit higher than you thought they were going to be, or maybe maybe somebody lost a tire on the runway. You got to land on another runway or something like that. Something a little
plan B.
Or
what do they call it when you skip and circle around again or something?
Do another lap in the pattern or something like that. So like a routine emergency kind of thing. That's a good way to describe it. You gotta have the mental fortitude to be able to deal with that.
I'm sorry. Did you hear me making up my own aviation
I did.
lingo?
I gotta like it though.
A skip. That's called a skip.
Yeah, it's a skip flight. Yeah.
Oh God. Sorry. Okay. Well, cool. Okay. So we got basic aviation, general aviation. We got like initial license. We got flight instructors, flight schools.
Sure.
You're essentially renting time.
Yeah.
If you're using someone's airplane.
Yeah.
I think my buddy has a co-owned lease. Multiple people own an aircraft.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
Okay.
Yeah, if you think of it just like I don't know if people do this with cars, but you'll have like a part ownership of an airplane or a car. So you'll own like you'll have like
or a timeshare. Whatever.
Yeah, you have like half a dozen or so people buy into this airplane,
right.
And so as long as you get on the schedule, depending on the group or the club, you can pretty much fly the airplane whenever you want. So, and there's a few of those clubs around here. So
yeah.
Usually the hobbyist folks that do get their certificate just for fun, that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to buy into an airplane and have access to it because airplanes are expensive to operate by yourself. So, if you're wealthy enough to own one by yourself, more power to you. But most people are going to have a partial ownership of one.
Yeah. Okay, so when did this start for you? Now, you're saying you just got your final certifications, licensing, whatever, on the big jet, on the big boys.
Yeah.
But how many years? Yeah. I'm not saying that was strictly the end goal.
Sure, yeah.
But from when you started, what's that trajectory look like?
Because like in any industry, there's always another thing to do. There's always another place. There's always another mountain to climb kind of thing. So there's always other things you want to do at some point.
Like my sister's a travel nurse.
Yeah.
It was like, this hospital's looking for this qualification.
Right, yeah.
So she gets certified in it, and then she goes and she can do that job at a given health system.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you keep just stacking those.
Yeah.
And then
kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, because at this point I have 3 type ratings.
Okay.
For 3 different airplanes on my certificate. So that's you kind of develop a resume after a while. So
CV we like to call it.
Sure. Yeah. Because
I'm just kidding. Because
aviation's all about like how many hours you've flown,
right?
And the types of airplanes you've flown. So that's I don't care. Oh, you've had a certificate for 10 years. That doesn't mean anything if you only have 1,000 hours. But we care about how many airplanes have you flown, how many hours do you have? That's your age as a pilot.
Right.
So.
When did you start your first certification?
Yeah, so I started in 2018 is when I got my private.
Okay.
2 years later, at the ripe old age of COVID, I got my
the ripe old age of COVID.
I got my commercial, my CFI,
right,
and our flight instructor certificate. And a lot of that time was actually spent here in this coffee shop studying. So sitting over there, with
between the gym and here is where I would run into you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, Chip, what's up?
Yeah, so I got the stress look in my face because I got a check ride coming up or something like that.
Oh, yeah. All the studying, sure.
Yeah, no.
And then you're like, I don't want to talk to this guy again. How do I avoid Dave?
He's going to talk about Egypt again.
Yep. That's funny.
Again with the pharaohs.
And the pyramids. Yeah, no, for sure, man.
It's all an illusion, man. They're not real.
Yeah. Do you have, let's just say, there's more to you than just aviation.
Sure.
Obviously.
Sure.
But when something is so consuming, like, I get sick of hearing myself talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or thinking about it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, let me just watch a stupid movie without it consuming.
You're not wrong. Yeah, especially when you go to airline training. Airline training is basically a PhD level course condensed in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
So you're trying to learn all this information and cram it in and then go take a test at the end. And so by the end of it, in the evenings when you're free, you're just trying to decompress. And you need to put on some Netflix and just turn your brain off for a minute. Go to the gym and think about anything other than what an airplane looks like.
Yeah.
So you definitely, that's part of the whole mental health aspect of it. It's just, anything you're pursuing, just, you got to take time to stretch your legs to decompress. You can't sit and study for 12 hours a day. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to be mentally healthy.
This is why the mad scientist goes mad.
Right.
You're in.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even have any friends anymore.
Right, yeah.
I can't remember when I last ate.
Because that's all they're doing.
I don't exercise. I don't drink water. My health is bad. All of a sudden, 4, 6, 8 years are gone, and nobody's heard from you.
Yeah.
Or you're Kaczynski in a cabin somewhere or something,
Oh, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. Could be.
Yeah, but hopefully you come out on the other end with some kind of cool 0-point energy or something like that. To develop a cure for cancer or something.
What was his thing called? Not a treatise. No, I'm saying it's his manifesto.
Yeah, he had a manifesto.
Hopefully, whatever you accomplish is not called a manifesto.
Right. Yeah.
Or whatever you're building is not necessarily called a compound.
Yeah.
So, okay. It's funny, these little words. Okay, aviation. So 2018. Then the COVID. So here we are, 2020. So 6 years. You're basically certified to fly the big jet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's faster than some, not as fast as others.
Yeah.
So, but still, right now this industry, taking a step back a bit, there's a huge pilot shortage going on right now. So even though the hiring slowed down a bit right now, it's still pretty much gangbusters.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty popular.
Do you know the macro numbers? Last time I looked,
so
there like 100,000 flights a day?
Shoot, those I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think. I know they're. I can't think of the numbers off the top of my head, but I know they're looking to hire like thousands of pilots over the next several years.
Right.
And so there another number is your mandatory retirement age is 65 years old.
Okay.
So once you hit 65, you're forced to retire. Well, there's a whole bunch of boomers coming through that are hitting 65 in the next few years that are
aged out.
Yeah, going to be aging out of the cockpit, and they're forced to retire.
Yeah.
That's what we've been seeing for years. Hey, there's like whatever it is, 30% or something.
Right.
I'm making that number up. 30% of the pilot force is going to be hitting 65 in 2024 and 2023. We need to replace those. Well, there's just not been the pilot pool to replace them up until recently when we've just been ramping up flight training.
Right.
So,
okay. So here, talk about this, because this came up when I did the podcast with my brother. Because we've been on the water for basically our whole lives, but the earnestness, if you can quantify the earnestness when other people's lives are dependent on you executing this job, what does that feel like?
Yeah. I can speak for myself.
Do you not think about it?
Yeah, I'm speaking for myself here for sure. When ultimately if I'm thinking about the people in the back of the plane, then I'm not focusing on what I need to do that's right in front of me. Because
but when would you think about it?
Sitting in row
before
5
or after? When does it? Or
kind of just definitely before, and just the way I approach the flight and prepare for it generally. You know, like, hey, I don't want to be, I want to be well rested. I don't want to be tired. I want to get a sandwich before we go up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Why don't you take care of your physiological needs, right?
Right, sure.
But yeah, like when you're in the plane in a stressful situation, any pilot that's been flying, we've all had a stressful situation. If they haven't, then they're either lying to you or they've got 2 hours.
Right.
But when it has been stressful, you don't think about what's behind you. You got to think about focus on what's your job in front of you.
Yeah, sure.
Because you are the two most qualified people on that plane to deal with that at that time.
Right.
The two people sitting up front. So really, you're really just pretty much focused on what you're doing.
But that earnestness and responsibility, let's call it whatever, that's like before or after.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the mental toughness, mental fortitude kind of thing.
Okay.
Like, hey, I can't let outside distractions get to me. If I'm thinking about how scared I am or how nervous I am, then that's taking away from the horsepower I have to deal with this stressful situation, with the bad weather or the emergency I have right now.
I guess I would call it like the solemn responsibility part.
Yeah.
It underlines the training.
Sure.
It underlines your seriousness of approaching everything.
Yeah.
It's like if you're running let's say an intersection at a rail yard.
Yeah.
If there's nobody on any of the trains, you probably care less than you would if it's a commercial rail yard. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, you're still in that plane. I've flown cargo before. Where it's like, okay, I know.
Number one is me.
I know there's nobody back there, but ultimately, hey, if I screw up, I'm
me.
dead too.
Yeah. I guess
I want to get home and pet my dog and all those things.
So the last thing you want is a suicidal pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Let's agree on that.
Yeah. No. But you just you definitely you're focusing on what you got to do in front of you, like any professional would have.
Yeah.
Anyone in a stressful job. Yeah. There's definitely 99% of this job is cool and smooth sailing and it's easy going. Kissing babies kind of thing.
Right.
But then, then there's, moments of sheer terror when you're like, man, I'm glad I prepared leading up to this event because that training kicked in and we were able to deal with it when it happened.
That could have been a disaster.
Yeah. But but it could have been. But then, you realize, man, I've had really good training. You're grateful for the training you've had. You're grateful for the work you put in leading up to this. So even though there's a pilot shortage and there's a lot of people coming through the pipeline right now, and we always joke that a regional airline will hire anybody with a heartbeat. Oh, you got a body temperature of the upper 90s? Sure, come work for us. Great. Well, the testing standards are still there. You still have to pass this test. to get to fly our plane.
Yeah.
So if you don't pass that test, the testing standard is still really high. We're not going to lower that just because we're short on pilots.
Right.
So
they might take in more applicants.
Sure.
But those that qualify
correct
stays static.
Yeah. You've still got to have that very high standard. So I kind of tell people that to make them feel better about,
bouncing
flying.
out.
Yeah, flying.
Right.
Yeah. I think next time they feel turbulence and they're all scared, like, hey guys, relax. There's still a very high standard.
Okay,
that you have to get through.
So here's a quiz, Mr. Pilot. What was the date of the successful Wright brothers flight?
What is that? Oh man, what is that? I should know this because I've read the book.
Oh, no. You should know this. Period.
Well, it's 1901.
1903.
1903. Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
December 17th.
I even read.
Skip it.
I even read David McCullough's book on that.
Okay. Anyway,
I've been to Kitty Hawk.
No shade, man. But so the very notion, like, I have some axioms and things in my writing and whatever, just observationally.
Sure.
But whatever we're trying to do engineering wise throughout human existence, like the demonstrated model is out here. Like, you just got to look at it, learn from it, and then apply it. That's it. Whether it's like barnacle adhesion, your materials research, whatever.
Okay.
Find out how that works, and now you got the best glue in the world. Okay. Find out, let's say the shape of fish with the eddies behind the flanks.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Or the gliders, right? They got that same fish-like design, where you're getting forward vortex pushing against the flanks. If you just understood the fish, you would understand why he's just sitting there still in moving water.
Yeah.
So all these examples are out there, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just like, how quickly are we learning what they are, and how do we do this, and da-da-da-da-da. And then it was like the keys to the right thing was their experimental air tunnel, right?
Yeah. That's kind of what set them above everyone else, was figuring out, oh, hey, if we have a wind tunnel, we can
test the lift, test the design, and then even the propeller twist.
Yeah. Well, no, I know it was wing warping is what they called it. So
the first warping of
because they would like twist the wings, and
that's separate from the propeller twist.
Okay,
I think.
Because the propeller won't twist while it's spinning. Is that what you mean? Okay.
No, I'm saying just to get the air movement through the propeller was just twisting the wing design.
Okay, cool.
And it created the air movement.
Okay, yeah.
But you wouldn't know that until you first is like, oh, here's the wing. Yeah. Here's where we're getting the lift.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you're saying wing warping.
Yeah, they called it wing warping. We call it ailerons now.
Okay.
Where they just had some cables. They just literally just warped the wing, and then it turned into ailerons, which is a more efficient way of doing it. But that's how they were able to turn left and right, because there were some other aircraft around the world, if I remember right, like some French planes that were able to go
straight.
Yeah, they were able to go straight, like go up and down, but they couldn't go left and right. So where the Wright brothers separated themselves from the pack was that they were able to figure out how to go left and right because of that wing warping.
Okay. And on top of the other experimental stuff that they did, like this, here's their laboratory. What'd you call it? The
wind tunnel.
Wind tunnel. Yeah. It's like, well, now we have a wing design that works. Now we have a propeller design that works.
Yeah.
Like, these are magnificent things. But again, too, a couple of bicycle mechanics that are used to just tinkering with shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't take Einstein or Newton necessarily.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just, can you mess with something and then test it, and does it work or not?
Yeah, it's so crazy to think about. Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff you don't need tons of funding for this. You just need some guys who just want to figure it out and have a passion for it. That passion just drives them. I mean, I read David McCullough's book years ago, and obviously don't remember the dates, but I do remember just the passion that the guys had for it.
We've established that.
Here's another trivia one for you. I remember the longest flight that they had in the flyer is still shorter than the wingspan of a 747.
At the time?
Yeah,
before they retired the flyer.
Like if you go to Kitty Hawk, there's a couple stones.
Up, down, shorter than the wingspan of a 747?
Yeah, so their maiden voyage, their maiden flight, when man first had controlled flight, is shorter than the wingspan of 747.
Nice.
That's crazy. Like if you went back there and told the Wright brothers, hey, within 100 years, there's going to be an airplane that's wingspan is bigger than what you just flew.
Yeah.
That'd be nuts. That'd be incredible.
The speed of this technological evolution is amazing, right? From 1903 to, here we are 121 years later. There's 100,000 plus daily flights, right? And, we're escaping Earth's atmosphere. We're doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
In 121 years.
Sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And then it makes you wonder, like, what are we developing behind closed doors that we don't know about?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother.
That's a long discussion.
I can't begin to talk about that, but
right.
I certainly love to hear people talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, so what? So other than flying, now, okay, let me take another step back. Popular culture, the Catch Me If You Can thing, the DiCaprio movie, that was cool.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
I don't think, you could never do that these days, because there's so much electronic verification these days with your ID badge having a barcode behind it or something like
flying?
that. No, he basically. If I remember the movie, he just forged an ID. Yeah,
right. He just impersonated.
And since 9/11, there's so many security procedures and stuff nowadays that you can never come close to that happening these days. If I'm a gate agent working a flight and somebody comes up to me and they look any little bit off, like their badge isn't quite off, because everyone's in uniform, right?
Right.
We're all doing the same thing. Every pilot and flight attendant, crew member has the same look, the same walk. Everyone's different, but you're all pretty much the same thing. You got your badge on.
Right.
Man.
You can't get, there's no way to sleek around.
Yeah. I mean, if someone's a little bit off, I'm going to raise my eyebrow and look a little bit closer at that ID.
Right.
And even then, to get access to the cockpit jump seat, there's tons of verification that goes on with that. So there's no way you're getting close to the cockpit without being.
So tell me about walk-arounds.
Walk-arounds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the same regardless of level?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different for each airplane. So, when was the last time you rented a car? If you rent a car, you should walk around the car and make sure there's no scratches, or make sure the tire's inflated, kind of thing. Make sure it's in good shape. Take a picture of a scratch or two if you see one. You're doing the same thing with an airplane.
Right.
So, obviously, on a Boeing 777, it's a pretty extensive walk around because there's a lot of stuff to check.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that are, antennas and vents that are on the outside that you want to make sure are clear and not obstructed. But yeah, it should take a few minutes. So yeah, if you see a pilot walking around, and even if you see two pilots walking around, maybe one's training the other, or maybe one of the guys saw something that looks off, and they grab the captain, like, hey, captain, come check this out. Right. What do you think? Or that happens all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Do you often think I do, but like we hear, let's just say in the political arena, less government regulation, that whole crowd.
Yeah.
And it's like, except here, except in, let's say, our well-regulated capitalist systems, our banking systems, our aviation systems. You want less government regulation, or do you want the maximum possible government regulation?
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying this. I only point that out because people hear government regulation, and they automatically skip these areas where you probably couldn't have too many regulations. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how to rectify that with myself because I tend to be more libertarian.
Okay.
So I'm very much a leave me alone economics kind of guy. Hey, let me, you do you, let's just agree not to mess with each other kind of thing.
Right.
But then I'm also in the most heavily regulated industry in the world.
Yeah.
So and I'm to a large extent, I'm very grateful for the regulations that we do have because most of them, a good chunk of them do make a lot of sense. There are other ones that don't make sense. Sure. Yeah. And we could do a whole, 6 hours on those kind of things, and certainly there's been enough emails written to the FAA on that. But, for the most part, a lot of folks criticize the 1,500-hour rule for the pilots. So you need to have 1,500 hours to be able to fly for an airline, right? To be able to fly passengers. And so that was as a result of a 2008 incident. Some legislation was passed, and now it's 1,500 hours. And but what you can say as a result of that, even though it may not make sense at first, there's been 0 fatalities since that time, except for the Southwest incident we talked about earlier, which had nothing to do with it. So
you can't argue with the fruit.
Yeah, even though there's been 0 fatalities, and there's a lot of good things that have come out of that regulation. That even though you may not agree with regulation as a principle, no one's died in quite a long time.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying.
And a lot of those regulations were written in blood. There's how many crashes have we had over the last 100 years of the airline industry where something happened, we're like, oh shoot, let's make a rule about that, or let's fix that system on that one aircraft.
Right.
And so many of those regulations we have in the books were, as we say, written in blood, and that's tragic, but it's very true.
Yeah. But I guess I'm just pointing out, not for you, but for anyone, it's like you can't have just these broad generalizations. I'm against government regulation.
Sure.
You can't have that view. Because there's certain areas, certain areas.
I'm sure smarter people than me would argue against that, but like I said, I can't argue with the results at this point. So
yeah, true. Let's just take other examples. I mean, like building codes or whatever. Like, I mean, we occasionally see bridges falling down, like
only when boats run into them.
No, like the walking bridge in Miami or Fort Lauderdale. There was there was an overpass.
I was just in Miami.
There was a footbridge that just fell down. I'm saying there's time and place. Or you hear of, this 15-story sewing factory collapsed in Mumbai.
Yeah.
It's like maybe government regulation would have helped some of these areas. So it's like, well, we like it when it works for us, but we don't like it any other time. Anyway, that's a pushback I have about government regulation. But particular to aviation, it's like, thank goodness we got it. And this stuff written in blood was born out of some of these tragedies.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that's interesting to note.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
What, are you fighting any injuries now?
Yeah, no. Came back from an ACL injury. Tore my ACL. Well, no, I mean that's been a while though.
Oh,
I'm sure you'd seen me since then. Tore my ACL in November of 20. What year is it? October 22.
Okay.
So that sent me back for about 6 months, and then because I couldn't fly in that time because. I mean, you're not fit for duty. You can't go push on a rudder pedal. Big thing of losing an engine is, can you push on the opposite rudder? So certainly wasn't able to do that. Had surgery, and then I went to training for SkyWest right after that, and was limping through training there because I was healed enough to walk around and fly, but wasn't 100% strength yet in that leg. So worked my butt off for about 10 months after surgery.
To rehab all that.
After about 10 months, I was able to do single leg pistol squats again on that leg.
Yeah, I don't think I can do one.
Yeah, it was that's what I was able to do before I got hurt. So that was when my doctor and physical therapist are talking to me, they're like, hey, what level of activity do you want to get back to? I'm like easily single leg squats because I was able to do that before.
Right.
And so. I ran into a friend of mine. She because I played soccer again this past Sunday. I was in goal, and she was seeing me move around, and she had a knee brace on. Meanwhile, I don't have any knee brace on because I feel strong. Right. And so I'm kind of teasing her for it. We literally had the same surgeon. Her surgeon did my surgery as well. Right.
She's not 100%.
Yeah. She just hasn't been hasn't worked out as much as I have.
Okay.
The leg. I mean, she's strong, she's healthy, she's able to do everything she needs to do. Yeah. But she was just like,
is this an indoor co-ed league?
Yeah.
What is it?
Indoor soccer. Co-ed league.
I did that 20 years ago.
It's so much fun. Yeah. People give me grief all the time. They're like, after I hurt my knee, they're like, that'll teach you to not go play soccer in your 30s. I'm like, guys, this is fun. As long as I can do it, I'm still gonna go have fun. But it's just a matter of just getting in there and staying strong. And I mean, that's why it's so important to work out and exercise on a regular basis. Because when you do get hurt, it means you can recover. Just faster. Because I had been working out and exercising so much leading into it, I was able to recover and get that strength back.
Right.
Faster than I would have if I hadn't been doing anything.
Yeah, so. My two stories. Well, I played an indoor co-ed thing like 20 years ago. Yeah, I would have been in my 30s, like 34. How old are you?
35.
Okay, I was maybe 34 or something. Anyway, long story short, the women were ferocious in this league. I mean, I say that. I'd never done competitive soccer. Upper Michigan.
Okay.
There's 2 seasons, winter and the 4th of July. That's it. So
blowing stuff up.
Yeah, it's like baseball. That was it. There's no soccer. Maybe there is now, but there was no soccer.
Soccer's pretty big. Soccer's exploding. It's
I know.
No
sure
pun
it is,
intended,
of course.
you know.
But so I'd never done it. But this little co-ed league was basically the first time I ever played soccer or whatever. But I was impressed with the ferociousness of the females in the co-ed league.
Yeah. I'm trying to not. I don't want to be intense when I go play soccer on a Sunday night. You know, I'm there with my friends. I want to get a beer afterward. I just want to hang out, sweat for a little bit. You know, kick a ball around, and then go get a beer or 12 after the game. You know?
I can't. I suppose I can now, but in terms of athletics, I can't do something less than intense. That's just in me.
Yeah.
Nah, well, like we did the Tough Mudder a couple years ago.
Oh, that's fun. I did that too.
It was interesting. It was the 15K, so it was like 9.5 miles.
Ooh, yeah.
There was like supposed to be 6 of us. My one buddy, Todd, who's been on the podcast.
They all mysteriously dropped out right before the day.
Todd did, and Luke dropped out.
Yeah.
But the idea was, there's like 6 of us. Todd and I are middle-aged, fat white guys. The idea was that we're going to cross the finish line.
You're not fat, Dave.
We're going to cross the finish line crying, weeping, holding hands as Todd and I come across the finish line. Todd triple books himself for the day of and has to cancel. So now I don't have my middle-aged fat white guy running buddy. So I grabbed the next guy who was running by himself. I'm like, hey, are you by yourself? Run with us. Just so I had somebody running at my speed. Because my other buddy's 29-year-old and 30. And my Jeremy's been on the podcast too. Ultra marathoner.
Yeah.
These guys are hundreds of yards ahead of me at every obstacle. And I got this guy from Illinois, like you and me, buddy, all the way to the end.
Oh man. The year I did it was like right after COVID, and they allowed like 3 people on the field at one time. It was me, my buddy, and his girlfriend, and it was overcast, rainy.
Was this 2 years ago?
It was
2 years ago.
I think it was 2021.
Okay,
because it was 3. I think it was the first year after COVID.
That's 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We did it 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah, and it was. I had a ton of fun, but also there was hardly anybody out there.
Yeah,
because it was just a gross day. I had fun getting dirty and climbing on shit, but
I was like I did it. I don't know if I 52 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just okay. I will do it one time. I'll just do it once as a 50 plus, and I did it, and I was happy with it. Like there's certain things I skipped.
Sure.
Like the electric. Like
that's no fun. Yeah,
no, I just don't want to risk. I don't want to risk.
You don't want to risk
some heart attack.
Don't want to risk it hitting you in the right spot.
Not at all.
That's it.
And then
the next people come through like, hey, just step over him. He's fine. We'll get him. We'll dig his body out when we're done.
Yeah, my buddy BT was running with us. He has since passed away from a heroin overdose or fentanyl. But anyway, he was running with us. But so I skipped also the cold ice ones or whatever because of my neuropathy with my diabetes. Like cold does not agree with any of my circulation.
Yeah,
it's super bad, and I'd be serious pain for days if it gets that cold. And permanent damage also. But anyway, BT's running along. He's like, hey, you ever seen a dead body? And he's like, just wait a minute, and we got to watch this guy. And then I'm running along, and all these strangers or whatever, I'm like, hey, what's your name? You know, Susie, Jimmy. Like, I don't want to look into the eyes of a stranger as I'm dying. I need to know your name. That's how I introduce myself all along the race. Like, hey, tell me your name. I just don't want to look into the eyes of a stranger.
In case this is it, I just want to know your name.
Exactly.
I need a friend.
Hey, you.
I don't want to die. Hi, what's your name? Hi, I'm Dave. I don't want to die alone. Like, that's a great way to make friends, Dave.
I know. It worked. It was fine. It was fine.
So a great way to do it.
So what are you doing now for work? Are you in the gym also?
Yeah, so I go to an F45, which is yeah, numbers. So F45 is actually Mark Wahlberg started it, so that's kind of the thing there. So it's kind of like an Orange Theory Fitness kind of thing.
Yeah.
That they have like scheduled times.
Sure.
So and they're getting a lot of popularity. So
It's just a data feedback system also?
No. So like there's scheduled classes.
Yeah.
So you go in at like
Hour and
either
a half.
8 or 9 o'clock, whatever it is. You go in, you work out, you're done, you walk out and carry on about your day. So
Just do what the group does?
Yeah. So it's a group workout. It's kind of like a HIIT style,
like line
circuit.
Dancing for muscle heads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we even throw our legs up and everything afterward. Yeah, exactly. So you go in, they'll have like stations set up with a deadlift or a box jump or pull-ups or whatever, and you go and you work out. So it's really nice because if you can go in when typical rush hours during gym time. And not have to like throw bows to get on the squat rack. You go in, you work out. 45 minutes later, you're done, and you carry on with your day.
Right.
So, one of my good friends, Anthony, he started the gym I'm going to now.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, hey man, I'm just gonna try your gym out. For the first couple months, I just want to try it out, get in really good shape for a couple months, and then I'll probably just go back to doing my own thing. 2 years later, I'm still there and I freaking love it.
Right.
And I can't go back to a club fitness or something because like I hate having to fight the crowd.
and put your own routine together.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of stuff.
I can just go in there,
do what the group's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're done.
And again, that helped me out with my PT on my knee.
Right.
Because the kind of stuff that we were doing at F45 was still. Was basically what I'm doing in physical therapy, but with a lot more weights and stuff. Yeah. And if you do have an injury, you need a modification. Okay, you can't do a pull-up. Cool. They'll give you something similar to where you can work out. The similar muscles and still get a good workout in.
So at these F45 Mark Wahlberg gyms, do they put them next to the Wahlburgers? You get a free burger, some fries with this thing.
Yeah, you get a punch card. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, for every class you do, you get a free burger.
If you make it to your week's workout, you get a burger and fries.
Yeah, you've earned it. And a milkshake.
I regularly eat some not healthy food, but I fully justify it.
Yeah,
like I'm burning this off.
Yeah, and I get it. It's F45, that style of gym is expensive. It's not cheap, but man, it's I'm in way better shape going to that than I ever was taking myself to a gym. Outside of the military, it's the best shape I've ever been in.
Yeah. Did you go to the military?
Yeah.
Oh.
See, I did.
I knew there was more to you than just the aviation.
Than just airplanes and pizza.
Yeah. What did you do in the military?
Yeah, so I was a 15 November, which is an avionics guy. That's a fancy. So basically, I worked on electronics in Black Hawk helicopters. Okay. Because I like electronic stuff. It's cool. I like taking the multimeter out and checking for sparks and stuff.
Right.
That kind of running wire, that's fun for me. So I was in the Missouri National Guard down in the AVCRAD in Springfield, Missouri.
Right.
And so that's a depot level maintenance unit.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I got my start well, it wasn't how I got my start there, but so the AVCRAD is a depot level maintenance unit. There's only 4 of those in the country, and it's just a huge unit. So a lot of folks in Missouri don't realize like the gem that we have down in Springfield.
Right.
That there's this giant maintenance unit down there with these guys who've been working there for 20, 30 years who are just artists at what they do.
Yeah.
Traditional military units. You go somewhere, you work there for a few months, and you get promoted out of the maintenance shop. Well, these guys, they're in the Guard, so they stay in Missouri, right? And then they work this job for 20, 30 years because they live down the street, so they don't get transferred around because it's the National Guard. So you stay there and you get really good at what you're doing. Yeah. And that's there's so many smart dudes down there in that unit that just really know what they're doing.
Gals too, or Just asking.
Yeah, a lot, but most of the gearheads are the dudes there that are turning wrenches. Definitely had a few females in there who definitely knew what they were doing.
How long was your service?
It was 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, driving down to Springfield, Missouri, 3 hours once a month.
Right.
So that was a good time.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so newly minted pilot.
Yeah.
Married, not married?
I got a girlfriend.
Oh,
yeah.
well,
Got a girlfriend.
He's
It's
off
pretty,
the market.
Sorry. Yeah, pretty. It's pretty new, but obviously.
Her name's not Elizabeth, is it?
No, it is not. No.
Okay.
Her name's Rebecca.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. That's good. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's going great. I got the dog as well.
Oh,
so,
what kind of dog?
She's a Lab Retriever, pit bull mix.
Nice.
So she's a sweetheart, about 2 years old. She was a stray when I found her.
Yeah.
Hanging around Creve Coeur Park.
No tags.
Yeah,
no.
She had a collar on, but no tags, no chip. And so it was a really hot day in August.
So she found a
And
chip.
She got chipped. Yes.
Yeah.
You're welcome for that
Dude,
joke.
August. I know. Dude, July and August. I'm not looking forward to it here. We just been recently doing the stairs at Creve Coeur.
Oh yeah, I saw you post about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, not many. No.
I'm surprised you're still alive, Dave.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Jeez.
54. But
Let's give blood and then go around those stairs and see how quickly
no
it
thanks.
goes south.
I got just enough blood to run one of these.
Yeah, for sure.
Not at the same time.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, what were we gonna ask?
Fitness. Okay, girlfriend. What? So other than aviation and working out and taking care of the dog, what you got other and soccer?
Yeah.
You got other hobbies? You were reading when we were here one day.
Yeah.
Like you're reading Jocko's book.
Yeah. I was probably reading Jocko.
Okay.
I've been reading a lot of Marcus Aurelius lately.
Okay.
I feel like that's been really, really helpful. Reading the old Stoics.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and stuff, and that's been helping with just my mental fortitude and everything, and just kind of growing up and thinking like an adult and making sure I feel like my head's on tight.
Yeah.
I try to look at the world through logic and reason, and that kind of stuff helps. And
versus emotionalism or reaction.
Yeah, I try to not. I've realized years ago that I even had a friend point this out to me. He goes, "You react emotionally to a lot of things," and he didn't mean that in a negative way, but as I thought about
This
it,
is your first response.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, he's right. I do respond emotionally to things, and maybe I should. Maybe that's a negative. And the more I thought about it, we're emotional creatures. We're all, if you punch me in the face, I'm probably going to be mad. But it's also up to us to decide how to react to that emotion.
Yeah, and process them, accept them, identify all this stuff, but not necessarily in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that goes into the cockpit, kind of what we were talking earlier about emergencies, of just how to think things through logically and clearly. Hey, if I'm dealing with an emergency, in my case in the cockpit, but for anyone else that'd be in their day-to-day lives, let me get the emotion out of it. Let me get away the garbage and just process this thing that I'm dealing with and attack this and deal with the situation. Yeah. And think through it clearly and move on.
Yeah. Which is not to, and then again, for people, it's like it's certainly not to knock any of the Stoic approach, but feelings are real.
Sure.
We process it. We have to feel them.
Yeah.
We're just human.
Yeah.
We're not some iron, He-Man.
Yeah.
Whatever. Alpha.
What
do they call that? The red pill.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And I say that not to mean like, toxic masculinity. No, I mean like embracing the good parts of masculinity.
Right.
The parts that are in touch with your emotions, and you're realizing just how your emotions drive your decision making and how to make sure that that's appropriate.
Yeah.
So that you can think clearly and you can make good decisions with your life.
Versus just if I constantly made decisions based on how I feel, I would just be going around in circles.
Sure.
Because there's no consistency.
Yeah.
There's no consistency with how I'm feeling.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I would love to go home and get a pizza on my way home tonight, but that's probably not good. I'd love to eat a pizza every night place. That's an emotion. It can be an emotional decision. Maybe that's a bad example, but
for me, it's a horrible example. I just eat whatever I want.
Yeah.
At this age.
But I found that's helped me out so much, and just just embracing that, just trying to think through the world logically and just, being able to trust yourself, being able to trust your own decisions. Hey, when I make this decision, it may or may not work out, but I'm trusting that
it's on a sound basis.
Yeah, that my own bullshit detector that I'm filtering this information through, I'm making the right decision at the time. That's been a really big part of me kind of growing up and maturing and just learning, hey, trust your decision making.
Right.
You may not always make the right call, but and you also got but in hindsight you may not always make the right call, but you gotta make the right call at the time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So my seasoned perspective on this, I've said this in other podcasts, is that I'm all pretty much 50-50 on my decisions. I might convince myself that I'm more successful. Yeah. But if I really look at them, they're all 50-50.
What do you mean? Like 50-50, like decisions you like that you're
decisions
okay with?
That turn out well or that don't turn out well.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 split.
Okay.
This is my seasoned perspective, life decisions, even day-to-day stuff. Yeah. Half the time I might make the right call, half the time it turns out to be the wrong call. Yeah. Or whatever.
So those times it didn't work out, how do you feel about that?
Made the best decision I could at the time.
Exactly.
And that's it. Yeah. The results are out of my control.
Yeah. Leave it at that.
I wouldn't change them.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's part of this good, better, best analysis.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And I think I can be somewhat self-deceived in that. Even if I'm sound reasoning, have all the data, make a decision, it should go right.
Sure.
No, it's still going to be 50-50 no matter what I do.
Right.
So that's my experience with all that.
And you've also got to forgive yourself when things don't work out.
Yeah. And don't take so much of the credit when things go, maybe it's good luck. Yeah. Maybe it's just happenstance.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I tend to get out of the credit business altogether. Either the blame or the credit.
Hey, things worked out.
Next.
It worked out. Okay, great. I'm happy that worked out because I made the right call. Yeah. Awesome. Next thing.
Right.
But
there's often a tendency to I just turn into a self-glorification loop.
Yeah.
I'm just the man. I'm so good.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a tendency for that, right? Mm-hmm. Tendency is, I think, way too highly in my abilities, my decision-making capacity, my insights, my whatever. I'm not the best assessor, I think. I kind of let, what?
Is it Zen time?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I tend to let time and let things play out, let's say, over the long haul. Because I may think something, some of the worst things that ever happened to me turned out to be the most positive towards a good path, right? That's just the way things work out. Or things that I thought were super great for me turned out to be total dog shit. Yeah. Long term. Sure. Sure. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what's good for me.
Yeah.
Back to. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go no, but still, like, I hear people say that they think, those terrible things that happened to me, I wouldn't trade those for anything because it taught me this valuable lesson. Yeah. I hear that, and sometimes I shoot that down, like, not taking away from your situation, but like the bad things I've gone through, I don't want to go through that again. I would still have preferred to learn that lesson the easy way and not the hard way. Yeah. But still, it still happened.
Right. Right. And then here's another. I listen. So you spend a lot of time listening to podcasts. So do I. But Jeremy calls these bromedics.
Right.
And so the notion that I learn a life lesson and I only learn it once and that's it, I found that not to apply either.
Yeah.
So I'll have the same basic lesson just in different situations, just repeated over and over. And each time I'm confronted with it, you would think I was never confronted with this situation ever before. Yeah. It seems all brand new every time. Yeah. And I'm like, I swear I've been through this before. And then you got to learn it again. And you got to learn. I'm learning. This is my experience. I just feel like I'm learning these same lessons over and over. Now, they look different. They're different package. Same actors, different play, whatever. Or different actors, same play. that's been my experience.
Yeah. Have you do you journal at all? Do you write anything down?
All the time.
Okay, yeah, because I feel like that's helped me, because I will write down these lessons that I learn, and I feel like I got that from reading Matthew McConaughey's book Green Lights.
Okay, right.
Where which is definitely worth a reread in my case. But these lessons that we learn, because I'm using his words here, like if you can write these down and just review them over and over again. Because you're right. I mean, the things we learn. I mean, how many times do I need to reread the date that the Wright brothers first flew the airplane for me to understand it?
Yeah, December 17th, 2003.
No, 2003. Yeah, no, you had it right. Yeah. No. Like, I definitely learned that a while ago when I read a book or I took a test on it or something, but clearly I didn't remember it today. Yeah. So, on these bigger things that we're trying to attribute to our life, how many times do we need to relearn these things? So, we are still constantly learning it. As a flight instructor, you learn these basic things, and this is one of the reasons I liked teaching, because to teach is to learn twice.
Of course.
So if, I knew for me, if I really want to get good at my craft, at my trade, I had to be able to teach it. So okay, cool, I took the test on it. To avoid my brain just dumping everything, I got to go back and teach this stuff. Yeah. And that's still there's still a lot of things that kind of drop off your brain occasionally. But being able to reteach those things and reviewing those lessons over and over again, I think is so important. And it's hard to keep up with, because you're like, man, what did I forget? You don't know what you forgot.
Or industries change. I mean, not so much in aviation necessarily, but like I know, like medical field.
Oh yeah.
It's all everything you're learning today will be obsolete within 5 years.
I got doctor and nurse friends that are just constantly in the books. They have to keep up to date with a lot of stuff.
So I tell my 17-year-old this too. I'm like, so whatever he's doing at school, his second year French, whatever. Okay, like you don't know something until you can turn around and teach it to somebody else.
Yeah, I feel that's very true.
And so, but I don't know that everybody approaches, let's say, knowledge or experience that way. But it's a very good marker. Like, you should be teaching what it is you learned. Oh, and the other thing is, if done properly, let's say you got multiple students. Let's say you got 20 students.
Sure, yeah.
If you're teaching correctly, you learn way more than any one of those individuals, right?
Yeah.
So
can confirm.
Yeah, I mean, so there's wherever the worm turns, where you go from student to instructor, or from just processing to mentoring, or whatever it is. Well, whether it's martial arts, whether it's like I have my buddy Paul Carlo on about boxing. He's a boxing instructor, so he's now processing stuff which he couldn't process when he was a pro fighter. Mm-hmm. He can only process it while he's teaching it.
Okay.
Right? And to the variety of the students. Oh, this southpaw does this thing a certain way. I'm an orthodox guy. I never did that. I would have never applied that to my style, because he's a lefty, I'm a righty.
Okay.
So you're teaching, or I'm sure you've seen this with your students. It's like, they're approaching something different.
Yeah, you have to come at it from a different way. Yeah, and that's the thing I loved about teaching, was figuring out a way to just pack something differently and give it to someone so that they understand it.
Yeah.
In improv, they call it like giving someone a gift. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. How can I package this gift?
Yeah.
And give it to you in a way that you can accept it and then
hit the
use
home
it.
run. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I was pretty lucky. My first student I ever had, his name was Matt. He was a Boeing engineer, sharp guy, really good at like reading a textbook and understanding stuff.
Yeah.
Because as a brand new flight instructor, you don't quite have your teeth cut as far as teaching. You don't know you don't have your flow, which is like any job,
Yeah. It's like, where's the bathroom?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the coffee maker in this place? Like, like you don't quite have your flow down. Yeah. But Matt was such a great student, because, we'd come in one day and we'd be doing a ground lesson. I'd be at the whiteboard, and I'd be explaining some, actually he was an aerospace engineer, so even better. Right?
Yeah.
He understood like lift and all these things and aerodynamics, and so I'd have the marker out. I'd be trying to explain aerodynamics on the board, and I'm like, I would pause, and Matt's like, Chip, give me the marker.
Yeah.
I gave him so much free instruction. I'm like, you're not paying me for this. But he was great because he was, he was really good at just reading the book and understanding things, and it gave me the time to like learn and figure out how to teach, because I learned a lot more from Matt than he learned from me.
That's
for sure.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So can confirm. Like, that's
the ultimate
absolutely
lesson
true.
in teaching. What time is it? 4:30.
Yeah, about 4:30. Yeah.
So we've been going about an hour.
Yeah.
Hour 9.
Nice.
I hope the reader or the viewer is having fun. The viewer.
Do we have? Can you tell if there's someone watching it live right now?
No, we're not. We're not doing live.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
We're just doing post.
Gotcha. Okay.
Post
cool.
edit.
Yeah, edit all the swear words out of here and everything.
I don't. I don't care. It's not monetized. Nobody's watching, really. I mean, when I say a viewer, that's
but we're having
what I mean.
fun doing it, Dave. We're having a great time.
Absolutely,
just
absolutely.
Talking, you got to bring up Marcus Aurelius, so it's a good
We've
time.
covered quite a bit of ground.
Yeah.
From the Stoics to the rights. What?
Right?
What else? Okay, so different stuff. Let's jump into. Okay, so I told you a little bit about just like let's call it the theme, if you will, of the podcast is like the Socratic quest to know thyself, right? But so let's say you, sentient, subjective being, do you have a spiritual relationship?
Ooh, I like it.
And tell us what that is.
Okay.
And then you and I could push back on each other.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'll start off by saying I have no dog in this fight. But I did grow up in a very, very Christian household.
Fundamentalist, Pentecostal, Baptist.
I'm going to say like evangelical, Baptist.
Okay.
We grew up, Christ is King, going, Easter and Christmas are big holidays, obviously. So I went to a Baptist high school, Tower Grove, which, in South City. I had private education all through high school, which, so I grew up in a very conservative Christian household, and it wasn't until about 20 or so when I finally just realized that wasn't quite, I guess, enough for me. I still respect the faith a lot because of kind of the foundation it gave me, but I consider myself agnostic, basically.
Yeah, right.
Is kind of the word I can, like a hopeful agnostic, because I feel like there's got to be something else out there as far as, a higher power, what is consciousness? We can't even define what this is, where does your brain really live, So I think that's a fascinating thing to talk about, but that's kind of why I try to fall back on logic and reason, because that's kind of where I come back to. If that kind of answers your question there, I talk to my sister all the time about, what we believe now. And like, we grew up believing this, and this is great. There's certainly a lot of great things great lessons to learn from the Bible. And there's certainly a lot of overlap between the Stoics and Bible. As I get into them, I realize they're written at the same time.
Learning the stories, the parables, the life lessons, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of richness to be learned.
For sure.
Well, okay, but now transpose that on any literature. There's these very deep and profound stories, right? Yeah. So, and if I'm hearing you correctly, it's like, I guess for me, I approach most things is like, take what you want or what applies, and like just leave what doesn't apply.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately. I want to have some filter. I want to have some filter of what makes sense to me, what seems reasonable to me, and just let me. It's not like I'm creating my own God or playing my own God in my own life. But just like, don't agree with that. This is not necessary. This seems like maybe the proof is nebulous, whatever. Right? And it's like, there's certain ideas I'm just not going to buy into. So that's kind of. That's how I. So the fundamental thesis is here's theism. There is, let's say the unexplained or the unexplainable.
Okay.
But again, and then if you look at it in, let's say, a historical context, 1500 BC, basically the birth of the Abrahamic written tradition. It's like, obviously there's a lot of false starts, right?
Sure.
The age of the universe, how all these things work.
Yeah.
Not only there.
Pretty sure the Earth's more than 6,000 years old.
Yeah. Well, but there's a lot of people that think it's not. So like, nah.
Yeah.
But then the other, pantheistic, say, myths or religions or whatever, it's like we tend to take something that is unexplained through a false start, and we invoke the supernatural to natural occurrences.
Yeah.
So that's where I was like, I don't need the supernatural to.
It's kind of like the God in the Gap theory of like, okay, I can't explain this, so God.
Yeah.
It's like, we just don't understand it yet,
Sure.
And certainly, if we can discover a God, maybe fits into a lot of those spots there,
Yeah, and it's like, what was it? One of Hitchens' arguments or whatever. It's like, name for me, like, we can look at all things that religion has ceded to science, okay? Mm-hmm. In terms of understanding reality.
Yeah.
Name for me one thing that science has to cede back to religion in that whole exchange, right?
Okay.
And it's like, there isn't any. So like knowledge of what is real, what isn't real. But here's the division, right? That the empirical or the scientific cannot weigh in on the subjective experience of the luminal or the transcendental.
Okay.
Okay, it's not empirical.
Okay.
Like let's say your work ethic.
Okay.
Show me that on an empirical scale.
Sure.
Meh. Now it might manifest in you show up on time, you're this studious, things like that, but that doesn't measure out as work ethic necessarily, right? Or love for a friend. Show me that on an empirical scale. Yeah. So these are transcendental, luminous experiences or feelings or subjective. This is my subjective interaction with the universe.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
But it doesn't require the supernatural. It's like everybody has it. It's not empirical per se.
Sure.
And it can't be quantified or necessarily qualified, but everybody has it.
Yeah.
I think that's the basis. This subjective experience is the basis for the spiritual life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go ahead, sorry.
Oh no. I also just think that there's a certain level of comfort that goes with faith. I mean, it certainly was for me as a Christian. I was more than happy to say, to have a problem and be like, oh man, I don't know how to deal with this. Let me just pray about it. And one of my closest friends right now, Anthony, is a very devout Christian guy, and I have a lot of respect for his faith in that. He really believes it, and he's able to just surrender a lot of his stress to just to God. And so there's, sure, we can, talk for an hour about, all the terrible things religion has done over the years, but there's a lot of good folks who have faith and who aren't trying to kill other people, and it certainly brings them a lot of comfort and helps them live a good, prosperous life. And if that works for you, hey man, more power to you. Yeah. Like if you're not searching for, something more than that, great. If you just want to stop there with God, boom, awesome. I'm not going to bother you with that, until you start making laws saying I can't do this or that or the other. Right. Of course, you get into the question of like, okay, then define morality, what's right and wrong. Sure, that's another rabbit trail you can go down, down with that.
Yeah, my arguments about that, and I don't know if the viewer, maybe whatever, but
we should name our viewer. We should have a name for the viewer that's watching.
Yeah. So my argument to this is, let's say morals, ethics. If we got it from the corporal law, let's say, of Moses,
okay,
our species never would have made it that far.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If rape, murder, and thievery was our driving force, instead of cooperation, love, community, we wouldn't have made it to Moses.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
We would have extinguished ourselves.
Yeah. So it's a good way to like have a societal framework here of, hey, don't do.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but it's not necessary.
Isn't that what you were saying though? Like,
No.
If we didn't have that, we wouldn't.
I'm saying that framework is innate.
Okay.
It doesn't come from the doctrine.
Okay.
It doesn't come from, through divination.
Sure.
It's just a part of who we are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what I would argue
Obviously.
is that, hey, we shouldn't hurt each other. Let's just agree to that. Hey, you're not going to punch me. I'm not going to punch you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take your stuff and vice versa.
Sure. Well, and by consequence too. So like, I think this is a arc of maturation, either individually or societally. Right.
Right.
So I just think we get there one way or another. And I think we were there before. What does that sound?
Sounds like a Frappuccino machine.
Yeah, no big deal. But,
Someone's making a.
I just
latte.
think it's. But here's another quick point on that. It's like, let's say you as a youth or anybody else. People ask these questions of themselves. I'm not.
You keep calling me youth. I'm 35. My knees don't feel like youth.
No, not youth now, but you as a youth when
Okay.
you were a youth.
Right.
I'm not talking about now. So as a youth, though, here's a concept, this concept really struck me, is tell me what good it does to give someone the answers before they've asked the question.
Because they're not receptive to the lesson?
They're just, you're given, they haven't even addressed the lesson of, let's say, adultery.
Okay.
They're not even in the situation.
Sure.
But you're already telling them that you're giving them the answer before they've learned anything.
Okay.
There's a process of maturation. If you learn, then live, it seems more appropriate to live and learn versus here's all the information, you haven't experienced anything.
Right.
Right?
Right.
How do you even know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think it's the cart before the horse thing.
Yeah. But you could potentially do something wrong without knowing it.
Sure.
And then, hey, like, okay, before you go into, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking of this scenario off the top of my head. You sit down and play a game of cards. Like you got to know the rules of the card game before you can play the game. So you can't learn the rules of the card game as you play. You have to know it going into the card game.
I don't think that applies to living necessarily.
It's just the first analogy that came to mind. So I'm
Well, it's like, so life is going to beat you up no matter what you do, right? So we're learning, just like we talked about 30 minutes ago, these life lessons.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to learn it again. I'm going to learn it again. I'm going to learn it again. Having the answer at the beginning doesn't change that at all.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Even learning it the first time or the second time or
you
the
may
third.
not remember.
You're just, no, there's a similar situation.
Yeah.
It's going to happen again and again and
Okay,
again and again
sure.
and again. It doesn't seem, it certainly doesn't seem helpful to give somebody the answer before they've learned the lesson or asked the question. And that doesn't even seem to work. It just practically, it's like we're still doing this all over and over and over and over again, right? So even though we've had the answer, even though we've had the experience, that still doesn't necessarily provide the wisdom, if you will, to the next time it's presented. So
yeah, I guess another way to think about it, kind of firing back a little bit, is in my industry, there's so many academic things I need to know.
Yeah.
That I may not experience them all, within my career or within, any given time.
Sure.
So I need to academically know these lessons before I get to them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, we always say in aviation, if you don't have a lot of hours, that means you don't have a lot of experience. Well, how do you make up for lack of experience? With knowledge, with studying, with academics, with studying your tail off, which we do constantly. Like you can make up for that lack of experience with just knowing those rules ahead of time before I get there.
Yeah.
So that's certainly helped me out, knowing, hey, I don't know how to deal with the situation, so I'm gonna pull out the manual here and read about it before I get into it.
Right.
And that's gonna help me be better prepared. I still don't have that experience. I may not have that lesson solidified in my mind.
Sure.
but it's
maybe it's a combination of
yeah,
both.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well,
I like it.
Yeah, I think we could agree on that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's as is most
definitely.
things.
But no, I will definitely agree with you that, there's things that I've learned in the airplane that I'm like, this is happening. It's like, oh shoot, that's why we learned about that. Oh, that's important. I need to know this thing because that has saved my life, or that has, helped me deal with this situation a lot better. That saved my life. Knowing how icing works on the airplane, and that I need to find a
like on a cake. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I couldn't help myself.
I wish.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Only icing I want to see is on a drink after the flight. Okay.
Oh God, that's so funny.
But yeah, just like those academic things that you hope to never encounter, but when you do, like getting ice on your wing or something, in the wintertime, you're like, hey, I don't want to deal with this, but I definitely want to know what to do if I get in that situation, so I know how to get out of it.
Flying to Peru, I don't think you're going to need it much.
But even then, like, first couple times you encounter icing, you're like, your heart's pounding, you're stressed out, like, this is not good. You don't like icing on planes, especially on little props.
Right.
But you definitely solidify that lesson, like we're saying.
Yeah, with the first experience.
By experience.
Yeah.
So, but now my experience has filled in that gap there that I was filling with studying and academics.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
What else do you want to leave the viewer with?
Man. Work hard, play hard.
Well, you're certainly doing that. Certainly doing that.
Yeah, just it's been a wild ride the last couple of years. Definitely gotten a lot. I will say, like, in 2018 when I got my private certificate, I was not in a good place mentally.
Right.
I was not happy with who I was and what I was doing with my life, and flying was, basically the only thing I had going for me. Like, I just need to push forward and get through this.
Yeah.
I want this, and man, there's a lot of sad nights around that time, and you just take it one day at a time, and you just keep pushing forward. And I had a friend of mine the other night, who's known me since about 2018, and so she's seen me grow through all this, and she's like, dude, you've grown a lot the last couple of years. This is a good friend of mine I respect a lot. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Like I didn't need her to tell me that because I know how much I've grown, but having someone actually say that affirmation, it's like, I appreciate that because
I don't get that compliment at all.
You're doing great, Dave.
I'm saying, you've changed a lot.
You've lost a lot of hair.
I know, right? That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's cool. And this is the proper definition of pride. Taking stock of things well done.
Sure,
right?
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I also, gotta be grateful for the things that are kind of out of your control. I think we kind of alluded to that earlier, but there's certainly a lot of things that just happened to me that it worked out.
Yeah.
To kind of bring this back to tests, for pilots, we have these things called check rides. So when you're done with all your training, you go with an examiner, you go up in either an airplane or, in the airline case, a simulator, and you fly the airplane in the simulator, right? Simulator is basically the airplane. It's it's a really expensive sim. I got pictures of it. It's really cool. And so, I'll hear stories of pilots going into these tests, these check rides, and better pilots than me, they go in and they fail a check ride for whatever reason. Some maneuver they're doing, they fail, and I think, man, that's rough. And I hear how they fail, and I'm like, man, I could have easily failed on that. I could have turned left when I should have turned right.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just grateful that I didn't, because it easily could have happened to me. So, as much as you prepare, as much as you work for it, there's certainly a amount of, I'll call it luck, call it God if you want to.
Well, it's chaos theory. It's like the water drop on your hand. It's going to find a way.
Malcolm, there you go.
Sometimes it's the way that it benefits you or doesn't disrupt things, and sometimes it does.
Yeah, so I'm really grateful for that chaos theory. It was, hey, things have worked out for me. Certainly, I've worked really hard to put myself in those situations where it can work out for you.
And ultimately acceptance, like really just acceptance of how things are, and pick your directions, take your actions, your activities, whatever. maybe with a healthy motive, whatever. And just accept the outcome.
Sure.
And stuff.
And pilots will get really stressed out.
But with the unpredictability?
They'll get stressed out for those check rides, for those tests, to the point to where, I've been talking to people at length about this. They're just
it'll ruin their performance.
Yeah, okay, they got a check ride the next morning and they don't sleep because they're stressed out the whole night. Guys, calm down, relax. I was talking to a friend of mine at SkyWest, and she was texting me the night before the check ride, asking me a bunch of questions because she had the same examiner I had, and she's like, "Oh, what about this? What about that?" And I'm like, "Relax, you got this. You're brilliant. You're gonna nail it." So she went in the next day and killed it. Well, probably a bad word, but she knocked it out of the park.
This is not a good aviation term.
Yeah, right. Not the right word. But yeah, she did really well.
What the converse is, you're going to work yourself up and impede the performance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But don't we do that in life?
No, it can totally apply to other things.
Yeah. It's like, I'm so stressed, throw this or that.
Like you got a big meeting or presentation,
lack of performance.
Yeah.
You're anxious or short-tempered with the kids or the neighbors or the whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you got to just accept, hey, I've prepared for this thing, this test or presentation or, check ride for the pilots. I prepared for it so much that the outcome the next day or whatever it is, it's basically already been determined, I think.
Yeah, relax.
Is the way I think about it. It's been determined by the amount of work I've put in preparing for it up to this point. So I'm going to relax tonight knowing that I have what it takes to succeed. Mm-hmm. Or I don't. Yeah. Whatever. There's nothing I can do about it.
There's no more preparation.
It's 10 o'clock at night. I can't prepare anymore.
Yeah.
I need to go to sleep.
That's so funny.
And then relax and do it really well the next day.
Yeah.
So that's I've talked to so many friends about that over the years. So just because I've certainly been stressed out before check rides, and you go the next day and just bomb it. You're just so stressed out, and you have to find a peace. You have to find a way to relax.
Sure.
So, and that applies to many other things outside of aviation, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
well, you are perhaps one of the more well-adjusted of the people I know. So that's good.
I still got lots of work to do, man. There's still lots of learning going on.
Yeah, I don't know why you said yes to sitting on the podcast, but thank you.
Because you're an interesting guy.
Oh, thanks.
How many times have we had these conversations in this coffee shop?
Yeah,
for sure. And it's like, stick a microphone in front of us.
Sit on for an hour and a half.
And have, record the conversation.
Yeah, it's surprisingly not intimidating. Like once you do it, it's like, who cares? Yeah. We're just having a conversation. Sure. Yeah. Here's the mics, here's the video, simple.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a friendly guy, so it's like you're very approachable, and so you have an open demeanor about you where it's easy to talk to you. Anyway, that's how we became friends in the first place, because you weren't a jerk. I'm like, hey, I recognize you. Thanks. I see you at the coffee shop all the time. And
notice that he's stopping well short of saying that I am well adjusted. No. Thanks.
You're good. You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
Thanks, Chip. Thanks, viewer. Stay tuned and for more Rephetic conversations. Appreciate you stopping
no problem,
in.
Dave. Thank you.
And when you see him at the front of the cockpit, know you're in good hands.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks, buddy. To know who we are, and where we're going, we must know how we arrived here. Welcome to Rephetic, a revolutionary study of the Great Pyramid, which promises to rewrite civilization's history